So he'll be logging in here shortly. But it's Chris McCormick, he's CEO of the Chamber of Commerce. He'll be talking a little bit about Vision 2050 for Iron County and some of the things that they're looking at specifically in housing and policies that they're pushing to implement, and then how that will impact you guys as investors, and it's really awesome. It's a process I was involved in the earlier stages of it. I've had to step back, but it'll be it'll be awesome. So we'll give him another minute. Oh, he's just logging on now. So Chris, when you are ready, you can turn on your camera and we'll just turn it over to you. All right, Chris, you're ready to go.
Fantastic. Fantastic. You've got those slides pulled up, or do I need to pull up mine, or what?
Sarah will be pulling them up here shortly.
Fantastic. Thank you. There we go. Super. All right. Well, hey, thank you very much for the opportunity to be able to join you today and share a little insight into what we've been working on our Vision Iron County. It's been an interesting ride, I will say, to say the least. But we're trying to address those key issues, needs, concerns, not only looking back and looking at the current time, but looking ahead. We're trying to look at how we plan for the future in a way that leaves a legacy and allows us to plan intelligently for future growth so that what we do today will have a positive impact going forward in the future. So we started this process back in 2017, and the reason we started this was because we noticed that there was a lot of duplication of effort. There was a number of people that were trying to do the same types of things in Iron County, but they didn't even realize that others were doing the exact same kind of thing that they were doing. And that created a number of challenges for a lot of people. One, the left hand didn't know what the right hand was doing, so to speak. But the other thing was resources were being split up. And so there's no way we're going to be able to track down all the silos, so to speak. But one of the things that's happened in this process is that we've been able to find better ways of communicating with people and bringing people together so that they can work collaboratively rather than separately in individual silos. And so it's been a really positive experience. We've seen some great things happen. We've had a number of stakeholder meetings. We held a lot of focus groups trying to get input and feedback. And then eventually we went to the Balancing Nature and Commerce in Rural Communities Landscapes workshop, which basically teaches you how to preserve the things that are precious and valuable to the citizens of your community while still making it a positive place for economic growth. And so that's something that's really important here because we're surrounded by all this incredible beauty, but we also have historical downtown and some really neat things that we want to preserve and to continue in the future. And then we started our planning process. We went out and actually went and talked to a lot of different people. We brought in people like Envision Utah, Better City, to try to get an idea of what they would charge us to put together a plan like this and really help build a vision for our community. One of the challenges we ran into is they're very, very expensive. And so for an example, Envision Utah was like $360,000. And there's just no way that between the city or the county that anybody wanted to spend that kind of money. And so we went to Better City and they were only about half that, 180,000. which was still cost prohibitive for our area. And so we decided to bootstrap this thing, and we reached out to professionals in the different areas. We went on and studied all these different organizations and how they do their visioning process, learned from what they do, and then tried to find those key experts in those areas, and then move ahead and start bringing in area experts. We can go to the next slide, please. And so that's kind of the idea of looking back. We started with a lot of different challenges and some interesting things there. But you have to look back to look ahead. When you're planning, you want to learn from your mistakes, but you also want to look at the things that are working and are of value for your community. So the next slide's fine. And so the first thing we did is we hired the Kim C. Gardner Policy Institute, who is the organization that the Utah state government uses for all of their main economic data and studies and so forth. So they're very trusted, very vetted, and highly recognized for doing efficient work. And so we brought them in to survey our county and to find out what the citizens really want. And so this is posted online at visionironcounty.org, and you can find this there, but we also have it on the chamber website. But it's it was a great resource for people to learn about what the people in Iron County really want to see for the future. And it's a real balanced thing. So it's an incredible document. It's a couple hundred pages long, very thorough, very insightful. And then the next document, if you'll click, is a vision booklet that we put together that kind of outlines what we did, what our process was, and what are some of the key things that people talked about as needs and concerns for Iron County. Next slide, please. So one of the things that's been really great is between these two books, Enoch and Cedar City both utilize these. In fact, Cedar City utilized the survey when they updated their general plan. And so the organization that they hired to update the general plan came in and took a look at that and said, well, you've already done our work, but we have to validate what you've done, which was fine because it was actually a second set of eyes, and it was spot on. So it was really a positive thing for us to know that Cedar City got the same results. And as a result, they implemented many of the things in their general plan update. Enoch City has been referring to it and using it for some of their planning processes as well. And now the city of Parowan has actually embraced this and jumped on board and said, this is important to us. We think as a county, we should all be working collaboratively, because what we do in Enoch affects Cedar, what we do in Cedar affects Enoch and Parowan and so forth. And so we see there's a huge value in the collaborative effort in sharing, but also in making the state aware of the things that we're doing. So it's been really an incredible thing, and we've had some really positive feedback from these communities about the things they've learned and discovered, and it's helped them with their zoning and some other things that they're working on. So this has been a really powerful and positive exercise for everybody, because one of the things we want to make sure is we protect everybody. We want to protect the businesses. Obviously, the Chamber of Commerce, that's a very high priority for us. But we also want to protect our community and the impact of the community and the quality of life that we enjoy here in Iron County. Next slide, please. So what we did is like I told you earlier, we found that there was a lot of people working in silos. And so the idea of bringing a collaborative effort and trying to discover who's working on what helped us to really identify some things and really strengthen things. So as an organization, we call ourselves VIC, which is just short for Vision Iron County, but we aim to improve communication. And by doing that, hopefully we can minimize the number of silos that are taking place. And if there are silos, at least if they're communicating together, then at least there's good information going back and forth, so we're not duplicating the same kinds of mistakes. We really try to involve more parties. We're trying to make more efficient use of our dollars. And one of the things that's really key is planning for future generations, not just the next 4 years, not the next 10 years, but the next 50 years, the next 100 years. You know, one of the things that we're all hearing a lot about right now is water. I know that's painfully apparent right now for a lot of people with the 1934 water, the 1957 water, and what that looks like, and what the ramifications of that might actually end up being here in the next few months as they take a hard look at this and try to address that. In the circle, you see Vision Iron County, and we operate in a manner of speaking as a hub, or for maybe a better description, kind of a airplane control tower, a flight control tower. And what we do is we take information in, but we also disseminate that information out. So we have 10 core focus areas that we really address on a regular basis. We have transportation, parks, open space and recreation, land use and housing, healthcare, infrastructure, economic development, education, community character, arts, entertainment, and tourism. And we've added one more, which is technology, because technology is having such a big impact now that we felt like it was important that we add that to our mix as well. And so what we tried to do is we get information from all these different organizations, they bring them into our board, and each one of these organizations has their own subcommittee, and some of them even have a subcommittee from there. And so the idea is they bring us information, and then we disseminate that information throughout all of the organizations, because sometimes what we do in economic development affects land use and housing, or parks, open space and recreation, or transportation, and so forth. And so the better we communicate, the better able we are to plan for the future of Iron County and the citizens in each community within Iron County. Next, please. So as you can see here, this just represents the different focus groups that we have, and several of the focus groups have different teams that are already out there doing things. So for instance, in transportation, the city and the county, they're all working on their own transportation plans. Education has a number of things they're working on already. So we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to take that information and bring it back to our committee rather than redo the same thing that they're already doing. So we're just trying to find better avenues to gather information, distribute information, and share it broadly, not only between the different organizations, but also to the cities, the educators, to the citizens, to everybody involved. And so it's important that we're all informed and updated. Next slide, please. So one of the things we've done is we've put together a website, and this is our visioниroncounty.org. And in there, you'll learn a whole lot about what Vision Iron County does, what we're doing. You can learn specifically what some of the teams are working on and some of the challenges they're faced with. But we're also making an effort to disseminate information that's of value to the community, that's of value to educators, that's of value to the citizens, everybody involved. And so we encourage you all to go out there and take a look at the website, learn from it. If you've got questions, there's a place in there where you can send information to us and ask for more information. Or if there's things that you see we're not addressing, please make us aware, because we want this to be a collaborative experience, and it's important to us that we truly represent all parties in Iron County. Next slide, please. So today we've been working on a number of things to try to help us plan for the future. Next slide. We are currently in the process of trying to put together another study for our area. So you can see here the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Planning Workshop. They did a number of different things to try to discover what are the needs, what are the challenges, what are the concerns, and you can see all the notes that were put up on the board. Everybody could write and share their ideas, and that's what we want, so that we can have more intelligent long-term planning and really address things in a way that hopefully makes it better for all parties, for our investors in the community, because we want this to be a healthy, vibrant, strong economy, but at the same time, we want to preserve those beautiful landscapes and these areas that we have here while protecting the property owner's rights, because that's so critical as well. And so I'll address that a little bit later. Next slide, please. So we've held a number of different workshops. We've had the tourism and hospitality panel, And that was absolutely tremendous. We learned a lot of things. There was different things that came out from that. You know, we've really been working on trying to find better ways to strengthen the tourism and hospitality industry. You know, during COVID, Utah was one of the fortunate places because people were still able to come here, mainly because the state of Utah helped fund a lot of things to keep some things open. People came out and recreated out in our woods and the forest and so forth, and just really enjoyed the area, but kept bringing tourism dollars here, not to the scale that happened in the past. But post-COVID, those numbers have bounced back, but we want to plan intelligently again going forward. Next slide, please. So on our economic development team, you can see some of the people that have been really engaged and involved in here. We have folks like Safari Hospitality, American Pacific, Cedar City Tourism Bureau. You know, we've got just people from all different avenues, whether it's industry, financial services, you name it. It's been a great collaborative effort, and we invite any of you who have an interest on being on any of these 10 committees to please just let us know, because we need your voices, we need your information, so that we are really making solid, well-informed decisions about how we can help our community to grow in a positive direction. Next slide, please. The excuse me, I'm sorry. The VIC team, Parks, Recreation, and Open Space, you can see a lot of the participants who are involved there. We've just had tremendous outpouring of help, volunteerism, and they're accomplishing a number of things. They're looking at some grants and some ways to really enhance the communities within Iron County so they can have a better, more positive future and really achieve the things that they want for their individual communities. And by doing this, we're trying to find ways that we can really support one another. So for instance, Vision Iron County is working on some things to generate some more revenue so that we can help maybe with some matching funds for grants for these different communities or for businesses or for whoever is trying to do worthwhile projects to make a difference in Iron County. Next slide, please. So you can see that these are the folks here that have really engaged in a big way in this process with us in terms of cities and government agencies. But we're also seeing a ton of people from the citizenry, as well as from the education base and from some of our nonprofits and several of our businesses. So we're just thrilled to have these folks involved, and we're seeing some really good things. Next slide, please. So as you all know, growth is important, and it's certainly been ramping up over the last little while, the last few years. You know, with Cedar City right now, they have 5,594 doors. They've got 11,000 projects, and I think that's doors, you know, worth of projects on the books. And so you can see that there's really significant growth taking place in just the Cedar City area. And then I don't have the current numbers for Enoch, and I apologize for that. But anyway, 2019, 49 units, 2020, 107 units, 21, 103 units. And right now, I know there's some really positive, hopeful commercial developments looking at Enoch. And if they go through, it's going to have a really positive impact for Enoch, and we'll see continued growth in that area as well. So we're seeing a lot of really good things, and these are all very welcome and very well received. But we want to plan intelligently so that we're making good decisions to have a positive impact on future generations, as well as the people of today. Next slide, please. So one of the things that obviously a lot of people are concerned about is the lack of affordable housing in the entire country, really, and that includes us here in Iron County. You know, in the recent years, we've had a lot of people move in, retirees and different people who sell houses for a lot of money and come in here and pay cash, and really have driven up the cost of real estate, which is not a bad thing, but it just definitely has its own challenges in the process. So Senator Lee has been working on the Affordable Housing Act or the Houses Act, which we support. And what that does is it allows government agencies in cities, counties, or what have you, to purchase lands, federal lands, at a discount to be used primarily for low-income housing. And there's some criteria to that, but that's something that Senator Lee, he put that in a couple of years ago. It failed. It didn't get out of committee. He put it in again, and we're hopeful that this goes through and becomes something that can have an impact for our communities to build affordable housing for the citizens of our area. Next slide, please. So one of the things that we're also really concerned about is strengthening the economy. Now, 2 years ago, we had a really, really cool event take place, and that was the launch of Artemis 1. And it didn't take place here, but down in Florida. But the thing that's really neat about that a lot of people aren't aware of, there's 3 companies in Cedar City that are involved in that launch. The first one is American Pacific. They provided the fuel for Artemis 1. Align Precision, which used to be Metalcraft, is building the fuselage for the other Artemis launches that are going to be taking place here soon. And then RCS Rocket Motor Components, their rockets fire off the fuel that American Pacific does. So we've got 3 companies right here in Cedar City that are directly involved in aerospace in a big way and having an incredible impact. And there's a big push on the state level to try to bring in more space type of companies, people that are involved in aerospace industries, as well as aviation. We all know that SUU is very heavily involved in the flight school, both in helicopter and fixed wing. And ever since COVID, there was a massive layoff during COVID in the airline industry. And a lot of people retired early and that type of thing. And now they're desperate for pilots. And so we're going to see more and more aviation, with more and more aerospace, and those types of things in Iron County. And I know there's a big push to try to bring in more of these companies that can provide really good jobs, good wages, good retirements, good futures for future generations, and keep us in a leading edge industry that's going to be around for a while. So we're pretty excited about that, and it was just an amazing event. They showed some slides. Some of the folks from American Pacific were actually invited to go to the launch and watch that. And this photo is from one of those people that went to that launch. And so it's just pretty incredible stuff. Next slide, please. So one of the things that we're currently working on right now, we've already filed the paperwork. We're just waiting on the federal government, or the IRS, to give us approval on our 501c3. This will allow us to raise funds, and for those who contribute can write those donations off. But like I said earlier, these funds will be used to help with projects in other areas, to help us to do studies and surveys, to help us do better planning, perhaps purchase lands. So one of the things in the survey, people said that was very important to them was preserving green space and agriculture. However, another key component in there was preserving property rights. So, if you want to preserve green space and agriculture, but you want people to have property rights, that's kind of a challenging thing. And so one of the ways that we explored to do that was, if Vision Iron County became a 501c3, we could actually purchase land at a fair market value from any farmer or from anybody that has lands available, and we could preserve those in perpetuity for future use as parks, for agriculture, or other things along those lines. And so that's a way to ensure that we don't infringe on people's personal property rights, but then we can purchase those lands that do what the citizens want, and that is to preserve green space and agriculture land. And then the agricultural land could be leased out over time to different farmers, ranchers, and what have you over the years. One of the examples and one of the exercises that we were in talked about New York and how they planned Central Park. And there was a program on not too long ago that I watched, and it was they interviewed a lot of the people in New York, and they said if it weren't for Central Park, a lot of them wouldn't live there because it gives them a place where they feel like they can escape from that hustle and bustle of the great big city. And so you can see why people find green space and parks and agricultural lands as something that is soothing and just creates the right environment. So we're looking at ways that we can do that, like I said, and preserve property owner rights at the same time. So that's the solution that we've come up with so far. If people have other solutions, we're certainly open. Next slide, please. So looking forward for tomorrow, we're exploring a number of different programs, like I said, the 501c3, protecting lands, things like that, but also looking at ways that we can help strengthen the economy, provide good paying jobs, good wages, and places for people to live, and all types of places. We need a variety of things from mixed use to single housing to condos and townhomes and apartments and you name it. Next slide, please. So one of the things that we've discovered is that in talking to some of our companies here in town, and this is something that was new to me, but a lot of the youth, and part of this is driven by our economy and the cost of housing, but a lot of our youth aren't buying vehicles now. And part of the reason for that is because the debt to income ratio required to get a home loan, if they have a vehicle loan, they're over the threshold and they don't qualify. So a lot of the youth today are looking for alternative means of transportation. And one of the things that people have said is they don't want heavy congestion. And so one of the ways to minimize that impact is to have rail, commuter rail. And so recently, Amtrak was at a meeting in I think it was Denver, and they were putting up these maps, and you can see the one here on the screen, of some proposals for the West to have a line from Boise to Salt Lake, Reno to Salt Lake, Vegas to Salt Lake, and Denver to Salt Lake. And so that's a positive thing. And so UDOT and I forget the other organization, but anyway, they pursued a grant to do a study. They didn't get the grant, but they'll revamp it here in a little bit and try again. Next slide, please. So this is a proposal that was put together by Link Utah. They're part of the Utah Rail Passengers Association. And this is a track that already exists. So except for the ones in blue that goes from Cedar to St. George, there's no rail from Cedar to St. George at this time. The challenge is you obviously can't go down the Blacks, it's too steep. You have to have the I think I can trying to get back up, and you probably never could. But you have to go way around around the Black Ridge in order to get to St. George. And so but this track already exists all the way to Cedar City. The interesting thing is that the track ends directly across the street from the airport in Cedar City, and the city owns that land where the track ends. There's about 7 or 8 acres there. So it would be ideal to have a train depot right across from the airport to be able to hop on a train right up through Milford, Delta, Nephi, and hit Provo, and then you'd have to switch to another train and go to Salt Lake. But the idea is to be able to provide more affordable ways for people to move. But one of the things that's really interesting is in looking at the studies and some of the data is that this really helps a lot of people that are in poverty, especially people living in rural communities. It allows people, say for instance, like Milford or Delta, to go on the rail to go to work. So people from Milford could hop on the rail, come to Cedar City, work during the day, hop back on the rail at night and go back home, and that type of thing. Same for Delta going to Nephi and so forth. So there's some real positive things for rail. It helps a lot of people who are elderly and can't drive, or people who are epileptics or have other issues or challenges. and it keeps our roads from getting as congested. And rail systems have been around for a long time. They're very effective. They're costly on the front end, but over the long haul, they're actually very economical. And so it's something worth looking at and exploring for the future. Next slide, please. So the phase 2 of this was to put a line going down to Vegas and then to Reno, Boise, Idaho, Denver, which I showed you on the other map. And then the other part of it was to start creating bus service, because one of the things they say is the biggest challenging issue when you put in rail systems is that last mile. So you get off at the depot, but then how do you get to work? And so having a system like CATS or a bus line or something to get you from the depot to where you work or close to where you work is really important. Next slide, please. So this is the study that I was talking about. So the Federal Railroad Administration, UDOT, UTA, Boise, they all applied for a federal grant to study the rail system from Boise to Salt Lake, and then also the rail system from Salt Lake to Cedar City, or to Vegas, I mean. And so unfortunately, that got turned down. The interesting thing to me was they said it didn't serve enough rural communities. Now, if you looked at that map, most of the communities that this goes through are very rural, with the exception of Provo and Salt Lake and those types of things. So I thought it was rather amusing that they didn't think it served rural communities effectively enough. So we're just going to have to try a different tactic in how we pursue the grant in the future. But at any rate, we've learned some lessons, and hopefully we'll see some good things come in the future. Next slide, please. So again, looking to the future. Oops, can we go back to the green one? No, forward. One more. There you go. Perfect. Oh, one back. There you go. Perfect. You're great. Thank you. So according to the 29 survey, Iron County preserving green space and agricultural land is a high priority. And so that's something that, like I said earlier, we're really working hard to try to figure out ways to do that. And so by raising funds and going out and purchasing those lands, we can preserve those spaces. But we would like to work with developers too, to plan in such a way that we put trails and things along in these green spaces so that there's better access between communities. One of the other things in the survey that was really interesting to me was the need for more bike paths so that people can ride bikes to different places. So when I was a kid, I rode a bike everywhere. I mean, I went to school, I went to church, I went everywhere on a bicycle, the store, you name it. And every kid I knew did the same thing. But, those days, you don't see that very much in Cedar. It's pretty dangerous to ride a bicycle throughout Cedar and Iron County. And so we're looking for more ways to provide access for bicycle paths so that people can move around more on bicycles and have that type of access. So something that we're planning on looking at here for the future as well. Next slide, please. So future efforts, one of the things that we're doing, and we just received a grant and some matching funds from another organization to help us conduct another county-wide survey. So the one we did before was done pre-COVID. And as you all know, a ton of things have changed since then. Mindsets, attitudes, a lot of just different things in how our businesses are operating. A lot of people are working from home and those types of things. So we're trying to get a new pulse on where everybody stands, on where the economy is and where we're going and what people would like to see and what they feel their needs are for now going forward. Another thing we want to do is hire a full-time employee to manage the day-to-day operations of Vision Iron County. Because right now it's a volunteer effort. The Chamber of Commerce has taken on the lion's share of the work. We went and hired an AmeriCorps Vista to come in and work with us. And she's been very helpful. We've hosted a number of open houses, and we plan on doing more of those. We want to improve communication methods to ensure that our citizens have better information about what's going on in the county in the communities and how they can help and be involved and make their voices heard. As I've mentioned a couple times, preserving green space and agricultural lands for future generations. Continue to look for ways to develop more affordable housing, pursue companies that will help raise the median household income, and assist with projects that will enhance Iron County communities. And then, of course, planning in a way that has a positive impact, not only for today, but for generations to come. So we really want people to really get involved and participate in these efforts, because it's really about the citizens. It's not about us. It's not about our ideas. It's about each one of you, the people that are invested in the community, the people that live here and work here. So we want anybody and everybody that is interested to please join us and get involved and make your voices heard. Next slide, please. So one of the things that we really want is this to be a collaborative effort. We really want people to feel welcome. We want people to feel that this is a safe place to share your ideas, your input. There's no such thing as a bad idea, at least in our perspective. We want everybody to come and share what's truly on their mind and feel comfortable in doing so. And whether we agree or disagree, it doesn't matter. The idea is that this is a place where we can share and hopefully come in with an open mind and look for positive solutions that will benefit everybody, because we're looking for that win-win. So we really invite you to join us, participate, and come on board with us. Next slide, please. So I have a few questions for each of you, and we welcome your feedback. We really, really encourage feedback. So what resources should we be using that we're not aware of now? What are the problems that you want us to solve? And how can we partner with you to help you in whatever it is that you're doing? I leave that open to all of you if you've got anything that you'd like to share.
Been a quiet group today, Chris.
Well, that's all right. It's after lunch, so everybody gets that after lunch Z's going on, but that's okay.
Yep.
Chris,
Yes.
this is Kristen from Youth Futures. I really love that you brought up one of the problems for youth being transportation and them not getting cars. And so I just wanted to say thank you for thinking about our youth. And if there's any input that you need from me about how youth get around and what we can do to help them, it definitely is an increasing problem for our youth. So
You're spot on, and we welcome that. We would love to have you join us. I'm sure that does Derek have your contact information?
yeah, he sure does.
Perfect. Derek, if you'll send her my contact information, please do that, and feel free to reach out to me anytime. I'd love to get some of your people involved in what we're doing.
Great. We'd like that.
Thank you. I appreciate the feedback. Anybody else have anything that's on your high priority list? I know we covered a lot and we're addressing a lot, but we honestly, very sincerely want to hear from the citizens, because it's about you. It's not the Vision Iron County team trying to force our vision of the future on the citizens. We really want the citizens to come here and say, this is what's important to us. How can we work together to make those things happen? Well, Derek, if there's nothing else, I really appreciate this opportunity to share. I encourage people to go to visionironcounty.org, learn about what we're doing, call the chamber. Our number is right there, 435-586-4484. My name is Chris McCormick. You can talk to me. You can talk to Abby Jones, our Vista. You're welcome to come to our meetings, and we can make you aware of all these things. But really, I appreciate what all of you are doing. A lot of you are involved in the affordable housing sector, so we're grateful for that. And it's a big need and a growing need and a concern. So thank you for what you're doing in those areas. to help strengthen our community. And thank you, Derek, for this opportunity.
No problem, Chris. Thank you so much.